So my name is Mickela Perera, and I'm a principal consultant at a consultancy called System Concepts. So we specialize in user research. And for me, accessibility is one of my favorite topics. So I'm going to struggle to keep time, so you just let me know when I've got to finish. So I'm going to start off by talking to you about what digital accessibility is and why it's important. So at System Concepts, we really believe that considering the needs and wants of all your users, irrespective of if they happen to have a disability or not, will lead to a product that's actually more usable to everybody else. So to start with, I want to talk to you about what good UX is. So biggest definition you get, well, the most frequent definition you get from people is that UX is about making things easy. But that's not always the case. So you not want to play a game that's easy. You want an element of challenge to it. So I put way too many slides, so I'm going to skip through some of these. But the idea is that UX can be distilled down to making things delightful. So to make something delightful, like lots of the talks today talked about, it's about making things, it's about identifying the user needs and helping your user meet those needs, obviously in a specific context. So what's the difference between meeting the needs of someone with or without a disability? So we've all got this perception that people with disabilities have difficulties and that they actually might not engage with technology, they might not engage with society, but that's not really true. Like if you look at these athletes, you know, I got pretty into the Paralympics as well. You know, they were just as talented, just as gifted, and just as ambitious. So it's really important to recognize that just because someone has a disability, it doesn't mean that, you know, they have different needs to the rest of us. So I'm going to tell you 4 key facts that hopefully will help you sell the idea of inclusive design further. So the first fact is that disability is actually really common. So 1 in 5 of the world population has some kind of disability. And if you really think about it, at some point in your life, you're likely to feel disabled too. So this could be a temporary disability. So for example, you might hurt your hand and all of a sudden using a mobile screen with tiny little touch targets might become difficult. Or it could be as you grow older, your eyesight might not be what it used to be. So it's kind of realizing that, you know, you will fall into the target user group who happen to have disabilities at some point in your life too. The next point is that accessibility is ethical. I don't think I need to go into that. It's obviously the right thing to do. And accessibility is also a legal obligation. So in the UK, there's the Equality Act, which means that any service provided online has to be accessible. So there aren't that many court cases that have been publicized, and this is purely because lots of companies actually decide to settle out of court because there's such a big reputational tarnish. So the final point is that accessibility actually makes really good financial sense. So according to the Institute of Employment, there's something like 10 million people with disabilities just in the UK, and they have a disposable income of around £50 billion. So that's quite a big amount of money, and by not considering the needs and wants of this population, you're actually turning away quite a big chunk of users. So it's very difficult to actually group people with disabilities into groups. Ooh, I'm going to speed up. So this is just a quick overview of the sort of disabilities that you can have. There's lots of adaptive strategies that are already built into mobile phones. So there's things like screen readers that blind people can use, all sorts of adaptations you can do to your phone. And this is all free nowadays, so the technology has really moved on. So I'm going to give you a couple of really quick top tips. So this is at a very high level. So if you have questions, do ask when you see me walking around. So the first thing is that the code is really important. And this is because, like I said, if someone's blind, for them to use their phone, they need to actually rely on the code of the site. The next one is about the use of color. So not simple things, just like, you know, obviously having good color contrast, but also thinking about how you mark up things on your screen. So for example, it's quite common for links to be be marked up with just color. But if you can't perceive color, you might not realize that it's a link, so you might not realize to touch onto it. The next thing is about considering layouts, so making sure that you group things properly on a mobile screen. It sounds pretty obvious, and it's quite simple, which is why you really should make an effort to do it. The next point is about making sure that the content is actually written really well, so really nice and easy to read. So this is a sentence from Stuart Little, which has 107 words, which is crazy. So you want to be aiming for really nice, short, succinct sentences so that everyone can understand it. And finally, it's about considering the needs and wants of the user. And the best way to do this is to actually speak to the user and find out what they think. So to you, this might look like a blob of black and white, but to me, it's a cow. So if you hadn't asked me, you wouldn't have known that. So it's really important that you do consider the needs and wants of users as well through user testing.